Yo, what's going on, guys? Josh from Honest Audio, finally back, starting to do some reviews again. And today I have something interesting to review. It's actually a product that I haven't seen too many video reviews on yet, so that should be cool to do. Get that up like pretty much first. I honestly don't think I found any on YouTube. I've seen some written reviews here and there on Headfi and the Reddit, but not not too much information out there in terms of video content. So yeah, today we got the, if you can see right there, those are the Massdrop Plus IEMs. So these are a Massdrop original. It's their first original product in terms of audio, I think. I don't think they've come out with anything that's just been developed by, it's always been in conjunction with other well-known audio brands like Fostex and Sennheiser, obviously, and things like that. So I think this is their first thing that they've ever made by themselves in terms of audio products. And they are pretty cool looking IEM. They do have that dark blue. It's hard to see because it's pretty dark in here, but that is a dark blue color that Massdrop usually uses in most of their audio products that they produce. So yeah, this is going to be a good review, and I'm pretty excited to review these. I actually had a few requests to put these up against the MEE P1s, Pinnacle P1s, which are my babies, and I love them so much, and I kind of shill them to people on the headphone subreddit. So I was asked by a few people if I could compare them and do a written review and compare them on the subreddit, but I didn't end up getting around to that written review at the time because I was just super busy with some stuff. So I figured I would do a review of the pluses, and I'm going to compare the P1s and the pluses in this video and at the end. And I also think I'm going to do an in-depth comparison because I think they need a little bit more time to compare than just sticking them in and trying to jam it in this review. But I will touch on it a little bit. But hopefully I will get around to doing a full video by itself on the comparison between the two, because there are some differences, and my opinion might shock some people, considering that. Now, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but considering the pluses are almost around 3 times the price, my opinion might shock some people. So, all right, let's get into it. So, I didn't get these new from Massdrop. I actually got them secondhand from a person who joined the first drop because I wasn't sure that these were going to come back. And I didn't really feel like waiting around for them, and I was really excited to hear them, and I heard such great things about them that I didn't really want to wait for them to drop again. So I did get them a few weeks, I think, or maybe a month or so before the second drop of them, and the second drop is still currently going on, and they go for around $300, which I think is a pretty good price for them. But I mean, I'll get into that a little bit later. So yeah, I didn't get them new, so I don't know what the original packaging was, but the person sent them to me in this little mini Pelican case that says Massdrop on them. And I think that whatever they came in, the pluses, was probably something that wasn't that impressive, and this is the main case that you're going to be keeping them in. This does come with them. And inside you'll find a various assortment of tips. So there's some foam tips right there and some double flange silicone tips, and then here are the single flange silicone tips. So I just wanted to start off by saying I don't think this case is very good. It's very well built, and I would not have any concerns of this breaking, or if I kept my IEMs in this, I don't think that they would crush. However, these are way too big for the case. So I'm going to wrap these up and show you. If I could just open it, and I'm gonna dump out the tips. So usually people don't carry the tips on them with them, but look how big that is for that case. You really have to like squeeze it in there, and then it's fairly difficult. See, I can't really even get it shut. I don't want to crush the wire. It's just a little bit too small. the foam on the inside takes up too much space, and then I don't know. This is not a practical thing to carry around for this IEM just because of getting it in and out. I don't think it's very good. I'm sorry to say, I think the case is great, but I think it should be a little bit bigger for these IEMs specifically. They would work great for something like this. See, I have in here in this case, this is actually, this is something really great. If you guys get the new Anchor chargers, the Powerline Plus, I think it's called, their new braided chargers, they come with this case, and this case is, it's essentially comes with the charger for free, and the charger I think I got for around $11 or something, and it's a great IEM case. I'm keeping my final audio EN2000s in this case currently, but this case would be perfect for these IEMs because it's so big, and it's a soft shell case, but this is honestly what I would keep them in if I didn't buy a whole separate case for them, which is the Campfire Audio case. Look at how nice that is on the inside. It's just like some, I think it's fake sheep fur or something, sheep wool, I don't know, but whatever is in there, it still feels really nice, and the outside is a canvas material, and it's really hard, so it's definitely a sturdy case and a well-built case. And if you have the Massdrop Pluses, I recommend getting this case. It fits very well, and I like using it a lot better than the original case that the Massdrop Plus came with. So that's one knock against the Massdrops, and it's not too big of a deal because you can get little IEM cases pretty cheap, so I wouldn't hold that against them too much. But let's get on to the other accessories, which I also was a little bit disappointed about, which are the tips and the wires. So let's just start with the wire. The wire looks really nice. It's a nice white wire. I actually really like the white aesthetic of it. I'm a little bit getting sick of black wires. I have black wires on my HD 650s, on my Odyssey LCD 2Cs. There's black wires on, well, I have a gray wire on my Argons because I replaced it, but there was a black wire on that, and then also black wire on my MEE Pinnacle P1s. So, you know, those come with a zinc wire as well, but my zinc wire actually came defective, so I'll talk about that more in the review. But yeah, I'm getting a little sick of black wires. So this white silver wire is actually pretty nice, but look, it's hard to see to get a full picture, but this is just so janky. There's a twist at the bottom that I've tried to flip it around like a bunch of different ways, and it just never see how it's a little bit curled at the bottom? It never uncurls, no matter what you do. I don't know what to say. It's so annoying. It's too thin. It's way too thin. Ooh, sorry, I just hit my mic. It's way too thin, in my opinion. Not that I think that there's any sound problems with it. I'm not a huge believer in that. I think that if you have a defective cable, then yeah, there can be sound problems, but I don't know. I think the wire sounds fine to my ears. That's not the problem. It's just the build quality of it, and I normally wouldn't have a problem with build quality of wires because usually on normal headphones like the Sennheiser headphones you can get replacements for. The P1s this is a replacement cable for them, and they have the MMCX connectors, which everyone says aren't that sturdy and aren't that good for durability and don't last that long. I don't really care because I can replace those wires easily. This wire has this weird, it's a 2-pin, and 2-pin is pretty standard, but there's only 3 replacement 2-pins that I know of. There's the Audio 64 sells this exact 2-pin cable for their custom IEMs, and Westone sells another 2-pin cable that I'm pretty sure is compatible with, but I'm not 100% sure. And so finding a replacement for this has been a pain. And then also this replacement cable that I got for the P1s also sells a 2-pin that might fit. And if I was to keep these for a long period of time, I definitely would look into getting a replacement cable, because this cable is so annoying to deal with. It's really probably one of the things that I hate most about this headphone is the cable. And I've actually heard people have problems with the 2-pin, when they pull it out, the pins get stuck in the headphone, and there's been problems with that. So honestly, in terms of durability, people say it's better, but in practice, everyone's going to have problems with build for everything. But the feel of this is definitely a problem. Whether or not the durability is good or not, I can't say. It's been fine for me, but the feel is absolutely terrible. So yeah, I'm sorry to say that. And moving on to the tips, it's not even a better situation. The tips are very let's get this straight. The silicone tips are very cheap feeling and uncomfortable. They're kind of a like a plasticky feel. Like they're kind of like they feel hard, like a harder silicone, and they don't mush very well. Honestly, just not my favorite tips. The foam tips actually feel really nice. The foam tips are actually great feeling. However, as I'm going to get into the sound, it's almost unlistenable on the foam tips. I do not like the sound of these with the foam tips on, which is actually a shame, because the foam tips are the most comfortable by far on the headphones. And we're going to get into comfort in a second, actually. But yeah, let's move on to build quality, because I don't really want to bash on the tips too much, because you can find replacement tips. Now, the nozzle on this is actually, they say 5mm nozzle, which is similar to what the P1s are supposed to be, like 4.9 to 5mm, a little bit above 5mm. But in actuality, this nozzle is way bigger. Like, I got the P1 tips on there, but it was such a struggle to get them on. So if you're looking for replacement tips, just keep that in mind, that you might have to stretch them a little bit, which could cause them to rip or tear. So just be careful when you're actually replacing the tips on these, which I would really recommend replacing the tips on these. I heard that one really good tip to put on these is the spiral dots, because as we get into the sound, I'm going to talk about how the highs are a little bit lacking on these headphones. On these IEMs, and the spiral dots are known for bringing up the highs a little bit. So if you're looking into tip replacements, you can find spiral dot JVC spiral dot IEM tips look for around the 5mm size for the bore. So yeah, let's get into build quality now. Next, the build quality of these is okay. I don't really like seeing plastic. They are plastic. They say like acrylic something on their website, but it's just another word for plastic. They're plastic, and they do feel like a thick plastic. Like, I don't think they're gonna break anytime soon. But for $300, I mean, there's plenty of IEMs that are below $300 that are full metal. The Tin Audio T2s come to mind. They're a new Chi-Fi thing that is up and coming and everyone loves. So those are full metal. You got the Falcon, the Dunu Falcon Cs, which are full metal. You have the ME Pinnacle P1s, which are full metal, and these are all below $300. So I know that Massdrop was trying to cut corners in places to get the sound quality up for the price, and they definitely did do well with the sound quality, but they cut some corners with the case and the tips and the wire and the build, where it's not as premium feeling as you might get with other headphones. But in the end of the day, sound is what matters most. So I'm not going to knock them too much on the build. The build seems pretty good, but again, it's plastic, so not a premium feeling product. And again, I've seen stories of the 2-pin wire becoming broken and the pins being left in the IEM. So keep that in mind with the build quality of the wire specifically. So comfort, I'm going to get into comfort on these, because they claim that these are a custom IEM. So normal custom IEMs, you obviously get your ear molded and it's a whole process. But on these, what they did was they took a average essentially of many people's ear molds that people have gotten their ears like molded for their custom IEMs, and what Massdrop has done is taken those images of the inside of people's ears and kind of averaged it out to see what the average ear would be like. So they say that it's a custom IEM, and here I'm just gonna pull out something else to compare them to. Here we go. These are a Chi-Fi kind of product that also does this custom shape. Now this is a KZZST, I think it's called, and they also have like a custom, like that custom shape look, like the Massdrop does. They have that thing that's supposed to go in the end of your ear and whatever. The ZSTs are not even close to a custom. What the Massdrop Pluses are doing. The Massdrop Pluses are way more comfortable and way more accurate in terms of fitting to your ear. So what they did with the averages of people's ear molds actually did work, but unfortunately for me, and this is very subjective, like IEM fit is way more subjective than headphone, like over your headphone fit. So it's really something that's hard to nail down because the insides of people's ears specifically are way more different than the, like, let's say the outside. Like not Massdrop, the Sennheisers right here, you get this whole big cup that gets to go around your ear, and you don't have to worry about the little intricate, like, little holes and crevices of people's inner ears. Whereas with an IEM, this is something that it's a little bit harder to nail down. So I will give Massdrop props for what they've done with the shape of these. I think that they did the best that they could. It's the most custom without being an actual custom, but the problem is that they're a little bit too big. So there's things like right here, there's a lip. There's like a little lip at the end that hooks out that's supposed to go at the end of your ear, and that doesn't really need to be there. It's just a thing protruding at the end, and I don't particularly see any wiring or anything that's inside there that really needs to be there. So why not just shave it down? Because then you risk someone's ear not conforming to that little hook perfectly, and if it's not perfect, it's going to be constantly rubbing and putting pressure on the inside of their ear, and that was the case for me. So I really don't know. That there's some problems where I think that an IEM like this without that custom design actually fits better in practice. But again, like I said before, IEM comfort and fit is very, very subjective. So I don't want to knock them too much on this. I think they did they really tried, and I think that they did a good job. But again, with what I was talking about before with the tips, with the nozzle size, the nozzle is really thick. And I'm not talking about as thick as the Odyssey iSigns. Oh, excuse me. I'm not talking about as thick with the iSigns, because those bores were crazy big. Like I couldn't even fit replacement tips on them. But these bores are still pretty big, and there's not much space in between the tip and the bore itself. So if the tips move in even just so slightly, you're going to actually feel the bore because of that little bit bigger than 5mm bore size that it must have. So that was bothering me at the beginning, and it actually bothered me on some days and didn't bother me on other days. So your mileage may vary, but if you have, let's say you use a small tip, like a small size tip for IEMs, usually I cannot recommend these headphones for you, because the bore size is almost like, I use a medium, maybe a medium to large size tip usually, mostly mediums, and it was the bore size was getting up there where it was like uncomfortable for me. But if you're fine with the iSigns, then you're going to be fine with these headphones. So yeah, that's another thing to note about the comfort. So, also the original tips, like I said, that plasticky feel really bothered me. So I switched them out to the P1's tips, just the single flange tips and medium size, and those tips felt way better inside my ear than the stock tips did. The stock tips felt a little bit rough and not as smooth. So just something to keep in mind. I would definitely replace the tips if you're trying to improve comfort on these as well. but don't go with comp-plies because it's not going to benefit the sound at all. So power needed for these is basically nothing. It's essentially nothing. That you could power these with air. It's crazy. They're so sensitive, and I would actually recommend something that is like not a normal desktop amp. If you're gonna get a desktop amp and use that with them, then please get the what's it called? The IEM match. I think that'll be really beneficial for these because you actually get full range of motion on the volume control. And for most amps, there's actually a little bit of what's it called? Channel imbalance at the beginning of the knob. So you actually want more range of motion just so you have a little bit more room to play with and you don't blow your ears up if you turn it to like 9 or 10 o'clock. So I definitely would recommend get something really clean and really sensitive for these because they do not take a lot of juice to power. I was powering them fine off my iPhone, and my iFi IDSD Black Label also was good, but I definitely had them on the ultra sensitivity for the bottom switch on that. So as sensitive as possible for these. I don't know if they're as sensitive as something like an Andromeda. I've heard that's crazy, but definitely a very sensitive headphone. Not hard to drive like the P1s. Okay, so let's get into sound. Finally, we're getting into sound. I know there's a lot to talk about for the other things, but I thought that Massdrop was doing some cool things with the custom fit, and I really wanted to talk about my issues with it and kind of applaud them, but at the same time give them some just feedback on what happens in actuality with just an everyday person like myself. So we're going to talk about signature really quick. So Massdrop claims these are a neutral sounding headphone. So what they were going for was kind of the Etymotic, I forget exactly what they're called, but they're like flagship. I think they're called the ER4, something like that. I don't know, maybe SE. I don't know. But you guys know what I'm talking about. So they're going for that mixed with like the Ultimate Ears 18, which is a classic reference sounding custom IEM. So they were really going for a neutral sound with a bass boost. So their own little fun bass boost on it. And I believe it for the most part. I do really believe it. I think that they did pull it off in terms of sound signature. They got a really neutral sound with a little bit of fun bass in there. It is thick. It is definitely a thicker sounding headphone, and it's more intimate. It's almost a little claustrophobic at times, but that bass is really just there, and it doesn't hurt the mids and the highs too much. But with all great things, you're gonna have to compromise a little bit on other aspects of the sound. So yes, the bass does affect the other parts, but for the most part, it is pretty neutral with a bass boost. So we're going to talk about the bass first, and it's definitely emphasized, like I said, it's deep. It's not just mid bass, which is really important for me. And honestly, it's probably my ideal bass. And having gone through a bunch of headphones and listening to other people's reviews, I honestly think that I like an elevated bass. I've come to the conclusion that for the most part, I really like a good hard-hitting bass and a thicker, not necessarily overbearing, but a thick, thumping bass, because otherwise some tracks can just sound like they're missing something, and you don't get that impact that I really want and that energy. So I do tend to like bass, and this is definitely a bassier. It's probably my bassiest set of IEMs or headphones that I even have. I have the Argons. I have the LCD 2Cs, and people kept raving about their bass, and I'll get into it more in their review. But these sound like what I thought the LCD 2Cs were going to sound like. Let's just put it that way. Not in terms of bass quality or in terms of overall like large, just impactful bass, but I mean that planar bass is just crazy. But I thought the LCD 2Cs were going to be super bass heavy, and they're actually not. And these Massdrop Pluses are bass cannons. Like, they will really give it to you. If there's bass in the track, you're going to know it. So yeah, it's definitely a good thing in my opinion. But if you are sensitive to that, if you don't like thick, bloated, not bloated, but thick, just warm bass, then you're probably not going to like these headphones. And also, I have the IDSD Black Label, and I like to use the bass boost on genres that demand it for almost all of my headphones, except for on the Massdrop Pluses, because the bass is so good that it almost ruins it if I put on the bass boost. It's almost too much, and that's kind of a lot coming from me. So, all right, now we're gonna get into mid-range, and this is a problem that I have personally, I think, because I've tried out other balanced armature IEMs, and I don't like them. I really don't like them. For some reason, and I haven't tried too many. It's mainly just like KZs and cheaper stuff, and then finally now a higher end one with the Massdrop Plus. But the mid range just tends to suffer in tonality and stuff like that. It almost has this plasticky feel. It doesn't sound as natural as a dynamic driver, in my opinion. But I really think this is something that I'm particularly sensitive to with the tonality of balanced armatures versus dynamics, because some people don't have a problem at all, and I don't know, every time I pick up a BA, I can almost instantly tell it's a BA, because you get that kind of, not fake, but it just doesn't sound as organic or as natural as the dynamic drivers do. And that might be because I'm just used to dynamic drivers more. So if I was originally starting with BAs for the most part, and I moved to dynamics, maybe I would feel like something was a little off. But if you're sensitive to balanced armature drivers and the kind of tonality that they produce, I would not say that that's something that's not present on this pair of IEMs. So definitely keep that in mind. Again, for mid-range, I thought the females were a little bit lacking, and I'm going to be particularly hard on these because I love my P1s so much, and these are, again, almost 3 times the price. So at $300, I'm really expecting something that's great, because you can get these Sennheiser HD 6XXs, and I know they're not IEMs, they're over-ear headphones, but these are $200. So at $300, you really gotta knock it out. So keep that in mind. I might sound like I'm being harsh, but I have high standards for certain things in this price bracket. So female vocals did sound a little bit dull, and I think that also does have to do with the balanced armature drivers. And the mid-range is okay, but it's just not the reason why you would be buying these IEMs particularly. The bass is really what you're there for, and if you're looking for great intimate, they are intimate sounding because they don't have a lot of soundstage, and the bass is kind of warm and thick. They are intimate, but that vocal presence isn't very great. It's I would say for $300, it's average. It's just probably average in terms of mid-range for $300. It's not going to blow you away. It's going to be good. It's there. It's definitely competitive, but it's not gonna wow you. So treble, again, similar to the mid-range, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. It feels like it's slightly recessed in comparison to the other aspects of this IEM, and that has some good things and some bad things with it. These don't sound particularly harsh, and they never felt really hot feeling for me, but I wish there was a little bit more treble there to give it this feeling of like airiness and space, because when you have the treble recessed a little bit, a lot of the times you lose that airiness and that spacious feeling, and it usually helps out with not having the headphones feel too claustrophobic or thick. I mean, you can have headphones that are just treble cannons and they're right in your face, but a nice sweet treble is always appreciated, just to give the tracks a little bit more energy and spaciousness and stuff like that. So I did think the treble was a little bit lacking on these, and it can be a little bit claustrophobic at times, I think, because of the thicker bass and the recessed treble. So moving on to soundstage, similar to what I've just been saying, it's slightly lacking. I would say it's a little bit wider than it's probably close to the 650s in terms of width. I mean, the 650s are open back, and I think the treble is a little sweeter on the 650s, and not necessarily more elevated, because I think the 650s treble is laid back as well, but it doesn't feel as like muted almost in comparison to the P1s. So the P1s are a little bit lacking in terms of soundstage, and they're definitely not as wide as the P1s, not even close. So imaging is excellent, which is great because these are like almost like, I mean, IEMs, that's one of the things that you really look for in an IEM, and that's one of the things they usually excel at, which is great to see on these. These are $300. If the imaging was bad on these would be getting a not a good review at all. So yeah, the imaging is excellent. You can definitely hear where things are coming from. It's fairly accurate, which helps a lot because the soundstage is kind of so claustrophobic that if the imaging was off and weird, it would not feel good. So yeah, and then transparency and clarity. These have amazing detail and clarity, although the emphasized bass can almost mask that. So on brighter sounding headphones, they almost sound detailed by default. So it's kind of weird because a lot of times really bright headphones, everyone talks about like, oh, the detail on these is so great, when in fact it's almost just like faking it. It's almost faking detail by just cranking up the treble, and these don't do that at all. These are detailed and have good clarity without having like very just in your face highs, which is kind of cool. But at the same time, the emphasized bass and the recessed treble, you have to be really paying attention to notice details on these headphones. Like the detail that is there, you actually have to be like looking for it, because it's not being shoved in your face like on a brighter set of headphones. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, but I do think that the detail and clarity on these is very good. So finally, moving on to some comparisons. Now, I just want to do a brief comparison to the LCD 2Cs, and this is not a fair comparison by any means. I think the LCD 2Cs are way better, but it's not a fair comparison. I just really want to talk about the bass, and like I was saying before, the bass on these is it's so good for a balanced armature. It actually blows my mind. They reach very, very deep, and it's not just mid bass, and it's emphasized, and it's great, and it's so fun sounding. I don't really have anything for like EDM and stuff like that, like music like that. I have the Argons, which I usually are my go-to for EDM and bass heavy music, but other than that, I don't really have anything else, and these are what are my go-to. If I'm not using the P1s with the bass boost on my Black Label, I'm grabbing these, and if I'm just on the go and I want to listen to music, these are great. These are, besides the wire, these are great. So the bass on these is very, very good, and it's honestly what I was hoping for with the LCD 2Cs, but it's not what I got, and the LCD 2Cs are great for other reasons, but I just wanted to do a quick comparison against that. And the main comparison, what we're going to talk about most here, is against the P1s. Now, these are my babies. I love these. It cannot be stated enough. Other people don't feel the same way, but I'm going to show these until the day I die, because to my ears, and that's what matters to me, these are great sounding. So the P1s are definitely more of a colored sound. They're not that reference sound. I mean, the pluses are more of a reference sound with a bass boost, but the P1s are definitely more colored and more natural sound. They're more musical in my opinion, and they're more fun, but the P1 bass does not even come close to the pluses bass. If the P1s had the pluses bass, I would throw the P1s out of the window. They wouldn't matter at all. But that's what they do best, and that's why I have them here, because they blow the P1s out of the water in terms of bass quality, quantity, and depth of bass. There's not, the roll off on these are not bad at all, and the roll off on the P1s is a little bit depressing. You mainly just have like mid bass in terms of the P1's bass. So definitely the Massdrop pluses are going to take the cake for bass, so that's a point for them. And the vocals, however, are definitely going to swing in favor of the P1s. The vocals, like I was saying before, with that dynamic driver, are much more natural sounding, and with the P1s have an elevated treble and elevated upper mid range, I would say. So so female vocals just sound crazy good on the P1s to my ears, and just wait for that review. I have that in little parentheses. Just wait for that review. It's gonna if it's gonna be the most biased review that I ever do when I review those. So I'll try to be critical of them, but it's not gonna happen. And then let's move on to detail. So the pluses are definitely more detailed, and I think you get that because Massdrop cut corners on the accessories and the build quality of certain things. You really do get that great detail. And if that's what you're here really in the end of the day here for, get the Massdrop pluses. They definitely have better detail than the P1s. The P1s might sound more detailed when you first are swapping them out, but that's just because of the elevated treble on the P1s and pluses, and just it might get confusing, but hopefully you guys are paying attention. Okay, so I have here that the P1s, like I was saying before, have almost that fake sounding detail where the elevated treble is making them sound a little bit more detailed when they're not in actuality. So the P1's highs are more exciting and energetic, which are great. So I do like the P1's highs way better than the Massdrop Plus's highs, because they have that energy and that airiness to them. So they really do sound spacious. And I think the P1s are definitely going to take it for highs and mids. So that's 2 points on both sides. So it's really coming down to the wire here. And I think that's really the problem. So, and again, so we're going to just trade blows again in the soundstage and in terms of imaging. The Massdrops have better imaging, and the soundstage is going to go to the P1s. So it's really like a 3-3 tie until you get to build quality, ease of use, accessories, and then price, which is the main thing here. You can go and pick up the Massdrop version of the P1s, which are just the same as the normal P1s without the high quality silver plated bullshit cable, and you can pick them up for $115. I'm pretty sure it's around $115, and these at the cheapest you're getting them for $230 used, right? And the P1s are coming brand new for $115. So at the cheapest you could probably get these for $230. I personally picked them up for I think $270 used, but that was before the second drop happened, so I'm sure you can find them cheaper. And I just can't recommend these at a $300 price point. That's what it comes down to for my personal taste. Now, if you're, ooh, sorry, my phone. I literally didn't even turn my phone off because it's 3 a.m. and I didn't expect anyone to be texting me. Sorry about that. So yeah, I think that in terms of price, it's very difficult unless you're looking for thwomping bass and detail and great imaging. Unless that stuff is really, really, really important to you, I can't recommend the Massdrop Pluses over the P1s. And I'm definitely going to get shit for this because I've seen other people's reviews and they don't have these two IEMs even close to each other. But this is my opinion, right? You guys come here for my opinion, not for anyone else's. You can go look at other reviews, and I actually urge you to go look at other reviews because maybe their ears are more similar to yours and stuff like that. But in my opinion, the P1s are definitely the better buy at $115 off of Massdrop. You can get the P1s new, like not the Massdrop versions, for $200 as well, and that's still well below the Massdrop price for the pluses. So honestly, I think the P1s are going to take it. Now, I'm not saying the pluses are bad by any means. I think they're a great IEM, and I think the bass on them, if I could take that bass and put it on any other pair of headphones, man, I would really enjoy it because I cannot overstate this enough. They're very fun, and they're definitely a fun take on the neutral sound. So honestly, for normal neutral, I think that bass should be elevated, not to the point of the pluses, but if you're going for strictly neutral, but that it's just so good. So I mean, last but not least, I wanted to talk about my iSigns. Now, my iSigns were my first review, the iSign 10s, and if I could go back, I got in a lot of comments on that video like, oh, you should have reviewed it with the cipher cable and stuff like that, and the EQ, you need to EQ them and all this. I don't EQ. Personally, I don't like to EQ. I have the bass boost on my Black Label and the other switches and whatnot, but I personally don't like to EQ. I've played around with EQ on things like the Argons and my my P1s as well, but I don't really like to EQ. With the cipher cable, it'd be nice, but I'm not listening all the time on my iPhone. I'm not going to be like, when I'm sitting down and at my desk, I don't want to plug into my iPhone. I want to plug into my computer because I'm doing other things. I'm not going to plug. So for $300, which is what the iSigns still go for, and I said in that review that those headphones would be a lot easier to recommend at $200. And what they do, they came out with the lower end iSigns at $200, and then mono price came out with similar ones for $150. So that's really where those things belong. But at $300, the iSigns get blown away by the Massdrop Pluses. If you're looking for a portable pair of headphones, portable pair of IEMs, these shit all over the iSigns. The iSigns don't even come close. I complain about tonality in these. These have way better tonality than the iSigns. So to all you guys hating on me for my original Odyssey iSign review, if I was to do it over again, if it wasn't my first review, I would actually have been more critical on them, and I probably would have given them an even worse review, especially now since I've heard these. So if you're thinking about, oh, if I have iSigns, are these worth the trade? I mean, the iSigns are open back and they have better soundstage, but these are way better. So yeah, who's buying these? Last but not least, I'm like 40 minutes in here. It's been a long review, but I like to do in-depth reviews. It takes a while for me to really get into the meat of things, and I think with audio, you really need to explain a lot. So who's buying these? I would say anyone who's a bass head, definitely get these headphones. If you're a bass head and you know it, get the Massdrop Pluses. You can crank up the bass even more if you want. I've turned them up. It's not going to sound great to me, but if you like it, these are going to reproduce bass very well for you. Professionals, maybe, again, if you are like just doing a little bit of mixing on the side and stuff like that, I don't know, you could get away with it, but with the bass boost, it does hurt the accuracy of these headphones and the reference sound that they could have had without the bass boost. And anyone in general who likes neutral sounding headphones but really wants a little bit extra fun. So if you've gotten a neutral sounding headphone before and you know it's a neutral sounding headphone and you just wanted a little bit more fun and a little bit more bass, these are the headphones for you. So yeah, other than that, guys, let me know if I've missed anything down in the comments below. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask, and if you want to call me out on this BS review and tell me that I did a terrible job, let me know and we can argue about it in the comments civilly, of course. So yeah, also let me know whether or not you agree or disagree if you own these headphones, and anything I mentioned will probably be linked in the description just so you guys can have easy access to all that. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and peace out.